You don't have to snap by killing yourself and others. You can snap by exposing evil to save yourself and others. Hi, I am Monica, a foreigner who lives in America, yet a prisoner due to fear of those who are above the law. I have, for years, been subjected to emotional abuse, intimidation, and strict surveillance from my oppressors, who prefer to cover up their gaffe at my expense instead of owning them. To be precise, I am a victim of church politics and white-collar crimes maneuver. In August of 1988, I met an individual less than 72 hours after I arrived in America for the first time. I still suffer the consequences of my encounter with this person. Stolen dreams, stolen years that cannot be retrieved, shattered human relations, life-threatening illnesses, stripped human dignity, and a gloomy future. I am out to break the cycle of psychological abuse that my son and I suffer in the hands of my oppressors. I'm coming out this way not to retaliate or to clear my name, but because no one has listened or desired to make the issue a win-win situation. I'm always set up for failures so I can be convicted. I am a victim of sexual exploitation, sexual assault, human exploitation, blackmail, extortion, emotional abuse, and conspiracy. However, justice has failed. I'm too small to challenge the Episcopal Diocese of Milwaukee and the priest it is covering, and I'm too small to challenge my former employer who exploited me for many years. My father passed away on April 14, 2007, but I was unable to bury him because my employer fired me instead of giving me permission to travel to my home country for his funeral. My sister passed away on March 6, 2009, but I was unable to attend her funeral. On March 14, 2011, my uncle and father figure passed away as well, and I was unable to attend his funeral either. At the same time, my mother suffered a major stroke, yet I could not fly to see her. Besides that, I suffer from a severe form of lupus, yet I have no insurance, unable to work, and without stable income to address my day-to-day needs and that of my son. In 1993, a Jesuit deacon who fathered my son chose dishonest over honest and arrogance over humility to protect his reputation and his image. When the Society of Jesus tried to resolve the matter and hold him responsible for the well-being of the child, he denied paternity, then manipulated both me and his superiors for his own benefit. Finally, he tricked me to go home while I had not finished school yet. And soon after I left with my son, the Jesuit deacon brought another woman from home and forgot everything about the child. In January of 2000, I approached the Episcopal Bishop of Milwaukee Diocese for help because the Jesuit deacon had abandoned his Catholic faith to become an Episcopalian priest. Again, I was unable to get a voice. I was perceived as the villain and my oppressor the victim. For 11 years, the church put me under strict surveillance to make sure I did not challenge the blunders of their priest. In 2003, the move went to the extreme of calling the law enforcement to go after me so I may be removed from the U.S. The diocese handled my case in a very hypocritical way, manipulative and deceitful manner, with lies and promises that never materialized. In January 2008, they restored the priest and outlined a plan to get me and my son out of the country in order to silence me forever. But I defied the plan until justice is served. In 2001, during my most vulnerable moments, I was hired by a CPA firm under an H-1B visa. Sadly, my human rights were violated as well. I slaved without freedom by being occupied with trivial work, which I was never petitioned for, trained for, and without background at all. For over 6 years, I was utilized to the maximum. I worked up to 18 hours, 6 to 7 days a week, and up to 22 hours a day when I had to travel. No vacations, holidays, or lunch breaks. I went to work even during those stormiest days when everybody else stayed at home. Yet, whenever I quit, I was lured back by intimidation. At one point, I was removed from payroll for 10 months. Yet I worked up to 18 hours, 7 days a week without pay. I had no voice but to follow my boss's orders, such as keeping his wife on payroll, although she was not an employee of the firm, arranging lump sum payments with ADP or paychecks for him at the end of the year without tax deductions. Also, he charged me $10,000 for my work visa, which he deducted directly from my paycheck every pay period. On top of that, he made me commit in writing an additional $15,000 to the firm for my permanent residence. As a controlling mechanism, my employer coerced me to move in with 2 male employees in a condo that he owned. Yet, he failed to protect me when I complained about sexual harassment 3 times. When I was sexually assaulted, I had to consciously choose between keeping my job and reporting the matters to the police. My employer gave me a new car which I used for work-related matters, but without gasoline reimbursement, maintenance, insurance, or wear and tear compensation. Yet I paid $340 every month for about 5 years, and when I followed up for the title, he canceled the registration without notifying me. I found this out from a police officer who had stopped me. He cleaned up my small 401k from American funds and issued me a personal check, which I returned to him. He kept the check and maintained his silence to this day. Professionally, I watched the firm violate the standard code of conduct set forth by the ARCPA, such as auditing its own work in all not-for-profit organizations that were outsourced by the firm and funded by the state. During my employment and after, I was constantly under control of others, and oftentimes I compromised my integrity and my faith to please them. More humiliating, my bully employer openly mocked me, intimidated me, verbally harassed me, and insulted me. When he fired me, he put me and my son out of his condo without caring where we were going. As a sponsoring agent, he was obligated to offer me a return ticket back to my country of origin. From May 2007 to date, I reported and shared my experience with different entities. Nevertheless, was sabotaged by the very same people who claimed to be helping me. There was a hurdle for every effort I made to resolve my dilemma. Oppression thrives in secrecy. I'm coming out publicly because I no longer wish to live under the shadow of others or watch my son suffer the consequences of his father's selfishness. I want the truth to be known and dealt with regardless of how ugly it is. I desire to be presumed innocent until proven guilty and not otherwise. The church holds double standards for sinners. In my case, it was all my fault, a woman's fault. I want my story to be known so it may inspire others in similar situations to put their fear aside and come out of bondage, regardless of their situation or immigration status. Fear cripples the mind. It is extremely hard to function well under fear. In the wake of the Caribbean uprising, our president announced that we cannot stand idly by when a tyrant tells his people there will be no mercy. I live in America, and my oppressors have not shown me mercy but pains. Nonetheless, no law enforcement has held any of them responsible for the horrible atrocities that they commit in secrecy. Today, I'm asking the following: the Episcopal Diocese of Milwaukee to explain how the priest they protect left the Society of Jesus, why he came to Milwaukee in July 1993, October 1993, and January 1994, where he lived from the time he was forced out of Berkeley University, where he worked before joining the diocese, how he obtained his American citizenship, and when he married his current wife. The Episcopal Diocese of Milwaukee to revoke the priesthood vows of the priest in subject because the diocese never informed me when he was taken back in January 2008. Although I was informed in writing when they suspended him in April of 2000. They never kept on any of the promises they gave me. The Diocese of Milwaukee and its priests, as well as my former employer, to assume responsibility of my ill health and all the costs associated with it, for lost time and many missed opportunities. I cannot depend on charity with a life-threatening illness and a son who still needs support for high school and college. The priest who defamed me for so many years, to prove that I reported him to his superiors for money. I sued the Society of Jesus for millions of dollars at his expense, and that I have been preventing my son from going to school so I can continue to get child support from him. It should be noted that he started paying child support when my son was 17 after I took him to court. I appealed to U.S. lawmakers to establish a law that will prevent American employers from abusing foreign workers. I appealed to human rights groups, advocacy groups, and lawyers with integrity to intervene in my situation. I just cannot continue to be a scapegoat. Finally, I appeal to all responsible authorities to resolve my issues so I do not have to suffer more than I have suffered. I'm a human being with feelings like all of you. Food, shelter, and medication should not be in my wish list. Thank you.